No one saw this coming. Just when we thought the 2025 to 2026 rugby season was taking shape, the news dropped like thunderclap. Rieko Ioane, one of the most electrifying backs in modern All Blacks history, is packing his bags and heading to Ireland. Not for a tour, not for a quick guest appearance, but for a full-blown sabbatical stint with none other than Leinster. Yes, Leinster, the same club dominating European rugby right now. The same club chasing trophies, leaving teams like the Harlequins and Glasgow in their wake. And most notably, the same club that Johnny Sexton, Ireland's controversial legend, called home for nearly 2 decades. Oh yeah, we'll get to that tension, but first, let's rewind. Rieko Ioane burst into the scene back in 2016. That year, he debuted for both Auckland Blues and the All Blacks. A double entry few can even dream of. Since then, he's been a fixture in black, scoring 37 tries in 81 tests. That's nearly a try every other game. His blend of raw speed, explosive footwork, and positional flexibility made him one of the most dangerous players on any field, whether he's slicing through gaps at centre or flying down the wing. But as dazzling as his highlight reel is, Rieko's story is about evolution. Early on, he was seen as a pure finisher, the guy who capitalised on breaks. But over the years, he's become a creator too, organising defence, setting up teammates, and taking on more of a leadership role in the backline. It's that maturity that made his next move even more surprising and even more calculated. Now let's zoom out for a second. Rieko isn't the first All Black to head overseas. This isn't a scandal or betrayal. Well, not technically. Over the past few years, New Zealand Rugby has baked a little flexibility into its contracts. Senior players now have what it's called a sabbatical clause, which allows them to skip Super Rugby season and play overseas for a short window, usually around 6 months. The goal? Give players the chance to cash in a little, experience a new rugby culture and come back refreshed, without burning out or walking away from New Zealand altogether. It's already been used by the likes of Sam Whitelock, Brodie Retallick, Beauden Barrett and most recently Jordie Barrett, who, by the way, is currently playing for Leinster. So while Rieko isn't breaking any rules, his move is still shocking. Because if you're going to leave and you've got offers from clubs in Japan, France or the UK, why choose Leinster? The answer may be lying in the timing and ambition. Leinster isn't just any rugby club. Right now, they're arguably the strongest provincial side in the Northern Hemisphere. They've reached the semi-finals of the Investec Champions Cup. After humiliating Harlequins and Glasgow Warriors, they're on the warpath, hunting a domestic and European double, and they want firepower. That's where Rieko fits in. He's not just a showpiece, he's a game changer. Leinster sees in him the ability to cut through tight defences that are the hallmark of European rugby. His pace, his strength, his All Black pedigree, it all adds something that they don't have in abundance. And for Rieko, it's a chance to test himself against a completely different style of rugby, in the heart of Ireland. Now before we go any further, if you've been watching and you think this move is surprising, just wait until you hear what went down between Rieko and Johnny Sexton. Trust me, that part of the story will change how you see the whole deal. So stick around because it gets wild. Alright, let's talk about what everyone's whispering behind the scenes. Money. Rugby doesn't always pay NBA or Premier League level money. But when it comes to European clubs, the wallet's wide open for international stars. In New Zealand, top-tier All Blacks like Rieko can expect salaries in the range of 300 to 450,000 New Zealand dollars a year. Not bad, right? But Leinster, for a 6-month contract during his sabbatical, Rieko is reportedly looking to make a deal worth anywhere between 500 to 700,000 pounds. That's nearly 950,000 New Zealand dollars for half a year. Let that sink in. That's almost double New Zealand's salary, condensed into 6 months. And he still gets to return to the All Blacks in 2027. It's a no-brainer, financially and part of a growing trend that lets New Zealand players secure generational wealth without giving up the silver fern. But there's more than money driving the story. There's history, there's beef, and there's one name at the centre of it all, Johnny Sexton. Let's take you back to the 2023 Rugby World Cup quarterfinal. The All Blacks stunned Ireland in one of the most emotional matches of the tournament. For Johnny Sexton, it was his swan song, his last match before retirement. Emotions were running high, and then boom, a quote dropped that would echo for months. "Don't miss your flight tomorrow," Rieko allegedly told Sexton after the final whistle. "Enjoy your retirement, you see beep." beep, beep. Sexton was furious. Not just because they lost, but because, in his eyes, that kind of comment shattered the long-standing respect between All Blacks and their opponents. He later revealed in the exchange of his autobiography called Obsessed, calling Rieko a fake beep and blasting the All Blacks' so-called no beep policy. Harsh words, brutal accusations, the feud was out in the open. But it didn't end there. A month later, the All Blacks beat Ireland again, this time in Dublin. Sexton wasn't playing, he had retired, but Rieko took to Instagram after the match with a cryptic but pointed caption. Put that in the book, followed by a Joker emoji. The shade was obvious. The Irish fans were fuming, and now the same guy is joining Leinster? You can't write about that stuff. It's like rugby soap opera. Now, for the record, Johnny Sexton doesn't have an official coaching role at Leinster right now, so there may not be much interaction on paper. But his influence still looms large. He's a club legend, a symbol of everything Leinster stands for, and even the faintest chance of their paths might cross, even informally, has fans buzzing. Can you imagine the tension if they're in the same room during a team event? But let's zoom out again. What does this mean for New Zealand rugby? The Blues will feel this. Rieko has played 120 games for the Auckland side. He's not just a veteran, he's a pillar of their attack. Losing him for a full season, even temporarily, will test their depth. Yes, he's expected to return in the 2027 Rugby World Cup, but a year is a long time in rugby. Systems evolve, new players emerge, chemistry shifts. His absence could create a ripple effect. At the national level, the sabbatical clause continues to be a double-edged sword. On one hand, it keeps New Zealand players in the New Zealand system long-term by giving them a financial break. On the other hand, it removes key talent from the Super Rugby ecosystem, weakening cohesion and continuity, especially when several players leave in the same cycle. So, is this the future of rugby in New Zealand? Players bouncing to Europe or Japan for 6 months, cashing in and then jumping back just in time for the World Cup. For now, it seems New Zealand rugby is okay with it. But how long before that starts to erode the identity of New Zealand domestic competitions? As for Rieko, he seemed unfazed, excited even. In a recent interview, he spoke positively about the opportunity to wear the famous blue of Leinster, calling it a fresh challenge and one of the toughest environments in world rugby. He knows what he's walking into, and he's not backing down. And maybe that's the most fascinating part of this whole story. It's not just a signing, it's not just a sabbatical, it's a statement. Rieko Ioane isn't afraid to walk into the lion's den. He's not afraid of the scrutiny. He's not afraid of Irish fans still nursing bruises from 2023. He's showing up with fire in his eyes and is ready to play. Whether that makes him a villain or a hero, that depends on which side of the rugby world you're watching from. So what do you think? Is this a brilliant career move, a cash grab, or something deeper? A strategic, almost poetic twist in modern rugby's new global era? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe because we've got more wild stories coming your way. And trust me, they get even crazier than this. And who knows, maybe next week we'll be talking about another All Black making headlines for the wrong reasons. Stay tuned and thanks for watching. Peace.